Hi everyone, Misty Connerly here. So I decided to do my case study on the Just Say No anti-drug campaign of the 1980s. I think, though it was a long time ago and probably before many of you were born, I think it's an interesting community intervention to study in terms of one that failed in its mission. A little bit of background on the campaign. It was a drug prevention campaign, like I said, launched in the 1980s by First Lady Nancy Reagan, who was the wife of then President Ronald Reagan. It was heavily promoted through PSA's school programs and traditional media, so you would see ads and commercials related to this campaign everywhere on traditional media back then. Their mission statement was to create an atmosphere where it is easier for our children to say no to drugs. Their organizational goals were to increase public awareness of the dangers of drug use, to empower youth to resist peer pressure related to drug use, and to encourage parents and teachers to support youth in avoiding drugs. Also, they wanted to provide resources for support and prevention programs that were available to young people at that time. Despite the campaign's efforts, drug use did increase among American youth during the 1980s and 1990s, so it can be said that this campaign definitely failed in its mission. Here are some ad examples that you would have seen in the 1980s related to this intervention. That is First Lady Reagan there holding up the shirt. These ads could be very condescending. They were criticized for being condescending and morally critical of people who already suffered from drug abuse. It was isolating to a lot of young people for that reason. I thought it would be an interesting idea to apply Bacon's mission statement test to this mission statement to see whether or not it passes that muster. Does it represent the community and its goals quickly? Not really. While it does quickly communicate the goal of preventing drug use among children, it doesn't fully represent the community's goals, as there were likely other priorities in various communities across the country that were not addressed by this pretty simple mission statement. Is it understandable even among outsiders? Yeah, it's simple and easy to understand. It does not use jargon or technical language that would make it difficult for an outsider to comprehend it. Is it inspirational? No, I don't think so. It doesn't provide any specific details on how they plan to achieve their goals of preventing drug use. And of course, it is a worthy goal to try to reach, but as in terms of a mission statement, it's not inspiring or motivational. So why did the intervention itself fail? It failed because they failed to employ key strategies related to the building and sustaining of a successful community. So let's apply three of the strategies that Bacon has offered us in our textbook. One, creating a sense of belonging. Two, encouraging participation and collaboration. And three, understanding the needs and motivations of community members. These three things are all ones that Bacon has emphasized as being vital to building and sustaining a healthy and successful community. So we'll start with creating a sense of belonging. What the campaign should have done is provide young people with opportunities to engage in positive activities. For example, skill building programs that teach ways of dealing with peer pressure, or mentor programs that would match youths with role models who could give relevant guidance and support to them. What the campaign actually did was rely solely on a simplistic message that did not offer positive alternatives to drug use. Nothing to help build resilience in these young people or build their self-esteems. And there were no ways for those children at that time to create positive social connections that would foster in them this sense of belonging that Bacon says is so vital to a successful community. Okay, so encourage participation and collaboration. What it should have done to achieve that is collaborate with schools and law enforcement to develop a comprehensive prevention strategy tailored to the needs of specific communities, and then involve the young people in those communities in the planning and implementation of that. Again, that also speaks to making them feel a part of something bigger and that sense of belonging. What it actually did was emphasize individual responsibility, and it was morally critical of those already suffering from drug abuse issues. It focused on persuading young people to just say no, as opposed to engaging them in some sort of a collaborative effort to actually prevent the drug abuse or to deal with it after the fact. Understanding the needs and motivations of community members. How they could have done this was by consulting with medical professionals and researchers so that they better understood root causes of drug use, like poverty, lack of access to education, and of course mental health issues. But what it actually did was rely very heavily on scare tactics. This is your brain on drugs, and moralistic messages that just portrayed drug use as a character flaw. So in conclusion, after applying those three principles that Bacon has put forth to this Just Say No campaign, I say that it was unsuccessful in preventing drug abuse in American youth, in part because it relied on such a simplistic message that favored individual responsibility over providing those young people with actual skills, knowledge, and social connections needed to resist the peer pressure and to choose healthy alternatives, sports, art, music, things of that nature. In this way, it missed an important opportunity to foster in them that sense of belonging that Bacon emphasizes. And by not engaging with them or seeking their input on prevention strategies, it also lacked collaboration. And by not relying on the research data that I mentioned earlier, it ignored important underlying socioeconomic factors that were definitely important motivators for drug use, and still is. Because of these shortcomings, the campaign failed to meet its organizational goals, and the intervention cannot be said to have been effective. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my case study.